Video Game History Time Warp Randomizer Podcast Season 1, Episode 8, dated Saturday, March the 21st, 2026. Welcome back, everyone, to Video Game History Time Warp Randomizer, the show where we spin the wheel of time and land on a random year in video game history. In today's episode, we're heading back to 2004 and 1984 and 1999. We'll explore a tactical shooter expansion that reshaped competitive PC gaming. Early experimental computer games from the 1980s. A beloved photography-based Pokemon adventure, and a quirky sci-fi comedy from Eastern Europe. But before we jump into today's time warp destination, it's quiz time! Video Game Quiz number 7 from Episode 7, 2005 review. Alright, listeners, let's test your memory. This is the Trivia Challenge segment for Video Game History news quiz questions for March 15th, 2005. What major gaming trend was gaining momentum in 2005? Here are the selections. Was it A, motion controls, B, online multiplayer gaming, C, virtual reality, or D, cloud gaming? Time's up. The answer is B, online multiplayer gaming. Question number 2. Which company was preparing for the launch of the Xbox 360 later in 2005? Time's up. The answer is Microsoft Corp. Question number 3. What handheld console continued dominating the market in early 2005? Time's up. The answer is the Nintendo Game Boy Advance, brackets GBA for short. Moving on to the game release trivia for March 15th, 2025. Question number 4. We have Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is a remake of games originally released on which 2 platforms? Time's up. The answer is Game Boy Advance and the Nintendo DS. Question number 5. In Frontline Panzer Blitzkrieg, what historical setting inspires the gameplay? Time's up. The answer is the gameplay of Frontline Panzer Blitzkrieg is inspired by the Eastern Front of World War II, specifically the German military's armored campaigns against the Soviet Union between 1941 and 1945. Question number 6. Yes, Your Grace places players in what role? Here are the selections. A. Knight. B. King. C. Merchant. D. Spy. Time's up. The answer is B. King. And an extra point goes to you if you guess the name King Eric of Davern. Question number 7. What visual style is Retrowave inspired by? Time's up. The answer is an idealized, futuristic 1980s aesthetic. Inspired by synthwave, heavily inspired by synthwave music culture, neon visuals, and retro futuristic themes. So, a point for you if you got any of those items there. Question number 8. Murder by Numbers combines detective gameplay with which puzzle genre? Time's up. The answer is kind of puzzling in itself. It's a weird name. The terminology is nonogram puzzle genre, brackets, also known as Picross, comma, paint by numbers, comma, or griddlers. So I'll point to you for any of those points that you've answered with. Question number 9. Idle Life Sim belongs to what popular mobile gaming genre? Time's up. The answer is simulation, an idle slash incremental mobile gaming genres, specifically categorized as a life simulation or virtual dollhouse game. So a point to you for any of those points that you've mentioned, that I've mentioned as well. Question number 10. On which platform would you play Touch Drawn? Time's up. The answer for platforms is available on mobile platforms including iOS and Android. Question number 11. Troubleshooter blends turn-based combat with what RPG mechanic? Time's up. The answer for Troubleshooter is often described as a mix of XCOM combat, Final Fantasy Tactics, which I believe that uses turn-based combat, customization, and anime-style storytelling. Question number 12. Breeder Homegrown. Director's Cut, released on which handheld console? Time's up. The answer is the PS Vita. Question number 13. What genre best describes Choco Pixel 3? Time's up. The answer is indie, casual, and simulation slash strategy, also known as a minimalist 2D puzzle game. Question number 14. The Fire Lord likely falls under which classic gaming category? And here is the multiple choice. A. Puzzle. B. Action adventure. C. Racing. Or D. Sports. Time's up. The answer is B. Action adventure. Question number 15. Villandia is notable for supporting which operating system? Time's up. The answer for Valendia is the Linux operating system within Steam's ecosystem. Now it's time for the bonus lightning round. Fast answers only. You ready? Let's begin. What year was the original Pokemon Snap released? Answer: 1999. Next question. What does DX usually mean in game titles? Answer: DX is an abbreviation for Deluxe. Next question. What platform is Steam primarily used on? Answer: Steam is primarily used on PC, specifically supporting Windows, Mac OS, and Linux operating systems. Next question. What genre is Yes, Your Grace? Answer: Yes, Your Grace is a kingdom management RPG, adventure, and strategy game. Final question. What device runs Android games? Answer: Android games run natively on Android smartphones, tablets, and dedicated Android handheld consoles. For example, AYN Odin 2 Retrowave Pocket. How many did you get correct? Leave your answers in the comment section below. Now it's time for Video Game History Years for Saturday, March the 21st, 2026. Now it's time to load our historical years into the randomizer. And the following years for Saturday, March 21st, 2026, I'll speed them up to reduce boredom. Here they are. 1972, 54 years ago. 1982, 44 years ago. 1984, 42 years ago. 1989, 37 years ago. 1991, 35 years ago. 1995, 31 years ago. 1996, 30 years ago. 1997, 29 years ago. 1999, 27 years ago. 2000, 26 years ago. 2001, 25 years ago. 2002, 24 years ago. 2003, 23 years ago. 2004, 22 years ago. 2005, 21 years ago. 2006, 20 years ago. 2007, 19 years ago. 2008, 18 years ago. 2009, 17 years ago. 2010, 16 years ago. 2011, 15 years ago. 2012, 14 years ago. 2013, 13 years ago. 2014, 12 years ago. 2015, 11 years ago. 2016, 10 years ago. 2017, 9 years ago. 2018, 2018, 8 years ago. 2019, 7 years ago. 2020, 6 years ago. 2021, 5 years ago. 2022, 4 years ago. 2023, 3 years ago. 2024, 2 years ago. And finally, 2025, 1 year ago in video game history. Big thanks to MobyGames.com for the historical data. All right, now it's time to spin the wheel. Here we go. Round and round she goes. When she stops, nobody knows. And the time warp stops on 2004. Well, this is a good video game to discuss here. We only have one video game in this year of 2004, so we'll add another spin for some more content of our podcast. Let's spin the wheel a second time. Round and round she goes. When she stops, nobody knows. And the wheel stops on 1984. All right, we got two different video games on this year, and this is not going to be enough for our podcast. So we're going to give it one more spin to balance this episode out, just for a little bit more content. Let's spin the wheel one more time, a third time. Round and round and round she goes. When she stops, nobody knows. And the wheel stops on the year 1999. We've got a list of nice games to talk about from 3 different years, right after the short break. All right, we're back with some video game history, starting with the year 2004. Industry News Snapshot, March 21st, 2004. Online multiplayer gaming was rapidly expanding thanks to broadband internet. PC gaming communities were thriving with mods and competitive shooters. Valve's ecosystem was growing, paving the way for digital distribution dominance. Game release highlight. We have Counterstrike, Condition 0 for the Windows, PC, USA. Here's a summary of this game. A standalone installment in the Counter-Strike series, Condition 0 offered both single-player missions and updated multiplayer content. It aimed to bring narrative structure to a game known primarily for competitive play. Here's some trivia on this game. Development was handed between multiple studios before release. Included quote-unquote deleted scenes and campaign-style mode. And finally, it built on the Gold SRC engine, like earlier Counter-Strike versions. Moving on to the next year in our journey through video game history, the year 1984. Industry News Snapshot, March 21st, 1984. The video game crash of 1983 was still impacting North America. Home computers were becoming more popular for gaming than consoles, and developers experimented with new formats on systems like Unix and European PCs. Game release highlights. Our first game of 1984 we're going to discuss is called Robots, brackets Unix-mainframe computer. Summary. A text-based or simple graphical game where players avoided or destroyed robots in a grid-like environment. Here's some trivia about this game. Often played on university systems, it inspired many later quote-unquote survival arena mechanics. Our next video game of 1984, we have Azuda for the Philips P2000, Netherlands. Here's a summary of this game. A lesser-known European computer game, likely featuring arcade-style gameplay tailored to the Philips P2000 system. Now for some trivia on this game. Trivia. Represents early European game development. Shows the diversity of regional computing platforms in the 1980s. Now for our last year in video game history for this episode, we have the year 1999. Industry News Snapshot, March 21st, 1999. The gaming industry was transitioning into 3D graphics dominance. Nintendo 64 and PlayStation were leading the console market. Pokemon's global popularity was exploding. Game release highlights. We have Pokemon Snap for the Nintendo 64, Japan. Here's a summary of this game. A unique on-rails photography game where players capture pictures of Pokemon in their natural habitats. Trivia. One of the first games focused entirely on photography mechanics. It used special kiosks in stores to print photos. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Moving on to the second video game of 1999 for this day, we have Red Comrades, Save the Galaxy, Reloaded, Windows, Russia, Summary. A humorous point-and-click adventure game filled with satire, sci-fi elements, and absurd storytelling. Trivia: gained cult status in Russia, known for its quirky humor and unconventional narrative. Video game history in perspective. 2004 in gaming. A turning point for online multiplayer and mod-driven communities. Competitive shooters and PC gaming ecosystems grew rapidly. 1984 in gaming. A rebuilding era after the crash. Innovation shifted toward computers, laying groundwork for future genres. 1999 in gaming. A golden era of creativity with 3D gaming evolving and experimental ideas like photography gameplay emerging. Well, that's all the time we have for our episode of Video Game History Time Warp Randomizer. I hope you enjoyed our journey through the years 2004, 1984, and 1999. 3 very different eras that shaped gaming in unique ways. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with fellow gaming history fans. Until next time, when we spin again into the unknown of the Time Warp Randomizer.